HOI4 is an interesting game. It can often leave me pondering, and so we are going to cover some of HOI4's most burning questions. Let's begin. Does multiplayer's balance actually matter? The idea for this came when NCNS first released, and Paradox decided to fix what they saw as a long-standing bug. And since I don't play MP, I'll have to quote Reddit user PastMiserable who described how it worked. In previous versions of the game, a unit could be on a field marshal front line and have a garrison order so they got planning bonus on the front line, but weren't subject to constant repositioning by the AI. But with this change, this manual micro was effectively removed from the game, and it was an extremely unpopular move. So unpopular in fact that Paradox the next day decided to back down and add this as a feature instead of a bug. If you've wondered where this new immobile cohesion setting comes from, there you go. It is funny how quickly Paradox chooses to move when they actually want to, however the question still stands. How much does MP's balancing really matter? Now, before we go too deep into this, I want to park something immediately, and that is mods. Yes, you can use them to make up for HOI4's shortcomings. However, mods invalidate any and all discussion about HOI4's balancing, and that's just not interesting. So, for this segment, just forget about your mods. Okay, good. First thing, how many people actually play MP? Paradox claimed that the MP community is actually large, and honestly, I don't believe them. I made a poll asking how many people actually played that game mode, and it was about 80%-ish of people don't actually play it. Now of course, this poll is flawed. My content doesn't feature MP, so my viewers are less likely to play it, and the answers are binary yes or no. I reckon a lot of people in either category would fit into a middle ground where they used to, but no longer do. Something like that, you know? To be generous then, let's say 1 in 4 people play MP on a semi-regular basis. That's still 25% of people who play HOI4. Surely making sure they have a good time is important. And it is. But it's not how most people play this game. With different rules, with different expectations, it's an entirely different paradigm, if we want to use overused business speak. I'd go as far to say that multiplayer HOI4 is a different game. Single player is PvE, while multiplayer is largely PvP. Players can adapt and make new strats 100 times faster than the AI or Paradox can. So why does it still get regular changes? If I had to guess, it's because it doesn't really cost Paradox anything. Balance changes for multiplayer HOI4 rarely affect single player experiences. Sometimes it can enhance it. The combat whip changes are a big example of this. They're not always perfect, but leaving the meta stale for years harms both game modes. I don't think it's important to focus on MP's balance, because I don't play it, but the game as a whole would likely be worse off if Paradox fully abandoned it. By the way, I have heard of the state MP is actually in, which isn't great at all, but that's not in this segment's scope. 2-2, is HOI4 a good HOI game? Yes, believe it or not, HOI4 is actually not the first game of its kind. Clues in the name. It is the 4th game in the Hearts of Iron series. And you know what? It's time for a little history lesson so we're all up to date. Hearts of Iron 1 released all the way back in 2002. Hearts of Iron 2 released in 2005. Hearts of Iron 3 released in 2009. Then you have the fan-created, Paradox-published games, 2010's Arsenal of Democracy and 2011's Darkest Hour. Following them, you finally have 2016's Hearts of Iron 4. And fun fact, as a consequence of how long HOI4 has been active, this is actually the longest drought between releases in HOI series history, not including DLC, obviously. HOI3 to 4 was 7 years, and HOI4's 10th birthday is soon. So all these years later, is HOI4 a worthy entry to the series it belongs to? Well, the thing is, I'm not qualified to say. Like most of you, HOI4 is the only one in the series I've played. Closest thing I've ever gotten to HOI3 is Civ 5, which aren't comparable. But there are things even now that HOI3 does better. The two big things that HOI3 players bring up whenever this topic is discussed are military headquarters and scenarios. Now, military headquarters are an interesting one, because Paradox is going to be adding them back to this game with the next DLC. Thunder at Our Gates, TAOG, which will be a bit of a shake-up to HOI4's gameplay loop. Looking at videos from HOI3, it is a lot of extra work. But I ask you this, would you be happy if you were a HOI3 player and it took them 10 years to re-add a feature the previous game already had? I'm not sure I would be. Conversely, there's probably some HOI3 players out there who hated that feature and are furious Paradox are bringing it back. Scenarios are another fascinating example, because HOI4 does have them. HOI4 has Gathering Storm and Blitzkrieg, but you have almost no idea what I'm talking about, do you? Those are the real names for the 1936 and 1939 starting dates respectively. What people really mean when they say scenarios are things that focus on a specific region, time on the map. HOI3 had 7 of these, including the Spanish Civil War, Full Blau, and Operation Unthinkable. And yeah, by comparison, HOI4 is the lesser game. However, I guess the question tying all of these together is, does it matter? Like when HOI4 released in 2016, it actually reviewed well, and people didn't seem to mind that much. And of course, HOI4 is thousands of times more popular than the rest of the HOI series combined. Whatever Paradox chose to discard from previous games did work out for them. The end did justify the means by pretty much all measurements. I guess it'll just be interesting to see what Paradox chooses to leave behind when HOI5 happens, because they will. Focus trees are my big candidate for this. I just have the impression that the devs find them constraining. But who knows? Abandoning focus trees would be so unpopular. If they did, whatever replaced them would have to be so much better. And all that being said, that is the thing. Change is always coming. Paradox made their choice from HOI3 to HOI4, and soon enough it will happen again. But when the dust is settled, will this game be seen as a good game in the HOI series? Who knows? Segment 3. What is the most influential mod? This segment is a weird one, since how you use influential can vary. Is it the most popular mod, or is it the one with the biggest in-game impact on HOI4, and so on? And to stop us falling into semantics, let's just talk about some mods. To start us off, Kaiserreich. If I made this a few years ago, I'd likely say its influence was limited to YouTube. However, more recently, we've had a lot more in-game things done in its style, like more events to choose your leader, and events to decide your direction, such as Belgium's election events, which I guess is kind of a mix of both of them, but whatever. 0-day focuses are a thing I associate a lot with Kaiserreich, but they are vanilla now. It's not the only mod to do these, of course, but you know. Despite this, I wouldn't give Kaiserreich this crown. I would say Kaiser Redux has had a lot more of a direct impact on vanilla HOI4 than stock Kaiserreich. Their focus trees are so wild and out there that Paradox has sort of had to follow in their wake to keep their wacky alt history trees wacky at all. But since that is a spin-off of Kaiserreich, I suppose this can go either way. Millennium Dawn's reputation these days isn't the best. Most of the time when I hear about it, people seem to be talking about its bloat and how much it can slow down even the most powerful of PCs down to a crawl. Regardless of this, MD is a fair candidate for this title, as videos featuring it used to be extremely popular, especially with people like Drew Durnil. Now, Drew has deleted and re-uploaded most of his old stuff, so the view counts don't really reflect this, so you'll just have to believe me, unfortunately. Or if you were there yourself, remember, but it was huge at one point. Now the perennial community favourite, Road to 56. Of all the mods, this seems to be the one that gets the most. Paradox stole this from a mod to put into the game accusations, which, as you know, I still disagree with. But despite this, Road to 56's popularity is absolutely true. To date, it is the most popular mod on the HOI4 Steam Workshop. A lot of people have played it, and a lot of people enjoy it. But can its influence be measured? Yes, it can. Peace in Our Time, another upcoming DLC will be made by some of its devs, and that tells us so much. If Paradox thinks they're worth hiring, that's the sort of approval you cannot buy. Is it the one? Maybe. But I have heard that some of the current HOI4 devs are also former devs for other mods. I swear I once heard of a dev that once deleted Kazakhstan by mistake. And what mod did they come from? Oh god, this one. TNO. I'm gonna outright say it. TNO doesn't win this category. It's much younger than the rest of the mods in this list, but it is another one where its influence is possible to see. I think it's largely responsible for the explosion in super events on YouTube or in mods themselves. But if anything, TNO's influence was on the modding scene, not the base game. The amount of things that use its style, UI, and if some reports are correct, being as much of a visual novel as it is a video game, are true, I think it belongs in the conversation, even if it's not the one. For goodness sake, even I am aware of its influence on the workshop. So, which mod should it be? I have no idea. I haven't played mods in ages, so you need to tell me. Oh, number 4. Who is HOI4's tutorial nation? Unusually for this video, this one technically does have an answer. But whenever that answer comes up, people are rarely satisfied by it, and almost everyone has their own views on it. In case you didn't know, the real quote-unquote answer is Italy. They are literally the nation you play if you choose to do HOI4's actual tutorial. That is right there on the title screen whenever you boot up HOI4. So, how could it not be them? Well, for one, HOI4's tutorial straight up makes you a worse player. I tried to make a video on it once, and if you follow it to the absolute letter, you will not beat Ethiopia. It doesn't ask you to send in all of Italy's air force or army. And the amount of people I've seen stuck because of that is shockingly high. Shocking for Paradox, that is. Make a better tutorial. On top of this, I also think the expectations of playing Italy are extremely high for a new player. You have to manage quite a lot. Naval invasions, Italian Ethiopia, North Africa, helping secure you and Germany's flanks. If Italy is your first choice for your first game, I do believe you end up completely overwhelmed, because HOI4 throws you in at the deep end and expects you to swim. If not Italy, then who? Germany is normally the big one people suggest for this exact situation, and I wouldn't say Germany is the absolute worst choice for this. After all, the European theatre can only really kick off on historical when Germany decides to do it. So you can dictate your own pace when playing, and only strike when you're ready. And for you to do focuses like Anschluss and Sudetenland, you are forced to overcome barriers like having more troops in the field and the required equipment. On top of that, you have to learn how systems like the MIFO bills work. If you ignore them, your economy collapses. Playing Germany forces you to figure out these systems, or you will have a bad time. I think it's fair to say that new players can learn a lot from them. Same problem though with Italy. Very easy to get overwhelmed with systems that HOI4 doesn't explain at all. Managing the fronts with the allies, Comintern, making collabs, managing your coastal defences, invading the UK. I think Germany fits into the category of easy to play, but difficult for new players to 100% succeed. When it's not these two, it quickly devolves into a multitude of different nations. Canada, fine I suppose. The US probably isn't the one, as you'll have to manage a lot of navy, factories and fronts, but they may work. And the final lot for this is just minor nations with the generic tree. And I understand the idea. My first game was Honduras, where I tried to unite Central America. And yeah, you're undisturbed and you don't have much pressure on yourself. Way I see it though, there is no right or wrong answer. You should do whatever works best for you. Something that works for me might not be the best thing for you, and vice versa. The Big Five. When will HOI5 come? It's an inevitability. The end of HOI4 will come one day. Active development will cease, and nothing more official will come. It's the fate of every video game in the end. So when will HOI4's time come? Well, I hope it's sooner rather than later. Especially since now EU5 is fully released. As Podcat said in HOI4 Myths, HOI4 was actually built off EU4. A funny side effect of that is you could consider the most impactful mod of HOI4 to be HOI4 itself, since in a way it is a mod. But anyway, that's not the point. I don't think it's much of a stretch to say HOI5 will follow this trend, and will be built off EU5's base. Don't think anyone is surprised by this. Doing so is much easier than building a brand new engine. So how long would HOI5's development likely be? Well, let's look at HOI4's development to try and suss it out. EU4 released on August 25th, 2013, and you would assume work on HOI4 began shortly around this time. Except there is a spanner in the works for this, because there was already another HOI game in development at the time, but people have largely forgotten it. East vs West was a HOI game set during the Cold War that Paradox was making during this time, but it was cancelled by March 6th of 2014, and HOI4's gameplay reveal was on August 18th, 2014. Most likely HOI4's development began somewhere in the time period of August 2013 to March 2014, although yes, it is likely that both games were worked on around the same time. What we do know is that HOI4 took around 2 to 3 years to make, and considering game development has seemingly gotten longer in recent years, I don't think it's impossible that HOI5 doesn't release until near the end of the decade, maybe around 2029 to 2030. However, that is assuming it has even entered development yet. The truth is that HOI4 is one of Paradox's golden gooses, and you keep those alive as long as you can. With the community seemingly accepting that DLCs can be resold forever, there is little motivation for them to make a HOI5 at this moment. Already we can assume that a DLC for Britain and the United States will be coming at some point. This pretty much covers Paradox for 2026 and probably 2027. When it comes to content for this game. And if they needed more, they can always integrate La Resistance and No Step Back. The optimist in me wants to see this as Paradox allowing themselves breathing room to make HOI5 with as little pressure as possible, but they aren't that clever. It took them years to fix the right opposition's coup, and only because I kept hammering it into them. HOI5 will come. Maybe. But major shifts in priorities and expectations from Paradox have to happen first. Once the cost of developing it becomes as profitable as making more DLCs for HOI4, or if the devs finally run out of ideas for this game, that decision will likely be made. For all we know, they might have already done so. For now, however, HOI4 will be the incumbent game for a long time to come. But that, as always, is that. With the benefit of hindsight, this is where the mod segment from Unsolved HOI4 Mysteries actually belongs. But I didn't think about that at the time. Never mind, it worked out okay in the end, I think. So until next time everybody, I thank you for watching, I do hope you've enjoyed it, and until we meet again, from me, Bubbles Zest. Goodbye.